Hello. Okay, this is a continuation of the recordings. I think I don't need to do this greeting each time because we're going to concatenate everything together, but bear with me. Now we have... Okay, now we will go to the config.py file and the env.example files. So let's go through this bit by bit. We are using a library called FastAPI, okay, REST framework, okay, web framework, and to receive the requests from the front end. Okay, so FastAPI has a lot of documentation, and I suggest seeing the official docs for it, official documentation for it. What is this? Yeah, sorry. It's really clean, and I liked it. And it's weird for someone to say that he likes documentation and that he's having fun reading documentation, but really, the team there did a fantastic job documenting how it works. And one of its features is settings, and settings here is a class that is responsible for taking different values from different places. What do I mean by this? Let me explain with an example. We can run the server, the FastAPI server, by running a command here and then passing arguments. For example, an argument called debug mode, and give it values. Okay. Now, this is one place where we can get, like, you want to say constants. Okay, you can say environment variables. You can say like just configuration settings. Okay, like a configuration setting. This is one place to get them. Okay, from the command line terminal arguments. Okay, so this is what this means. Okay, and you can get it as well from other places. Let me show you an example that you're probably familiar with, the .env file. I'm showing you an example of it. So you can here set the keys that you want to be read in the environment while the code is running. So again, you'll see debug mode here. Okay, so this is another place. So there are multiple places. I'm not going to explain all of them. What we are interested in understanding is that there is precedence. Precedence meaning that if I set this here and then set this in the .env.example file, this will take precedence over the .env.example file. So meaning more priority. This will be prioritized. Okay. So this is another thing to take in mind. What you need to understand from all of these is that what we're currently using is the following. We are using .env file. So we're loading the values from here, from there into this class. So you're going to see here a lot of keys. Okay, these keys, most of them are loaded from the .env example. So here you'll see debug mode. Okay, so debug mode here, I got that from the .env example. Okay, this is done automatically. So when you just run the script in main API.py and the FastAPI server like runs in the background, and it sees this base settings from the pydantic class. It runs that as well. We see that it checks for these values. So it sees that, okay, debug mode, and sees based on the list above, where can I find this value? And it goes through this list and it finds it in a .env file, because it reads in the, I think we passed it here. Yeah, the env file, when we configured settings config.dict, we specified that it is found in here. And this is respective to the root. So that's why we put the file in the root. The .env file here will be in the root. Okay. So again, a .env file is literally the same as this, but with the actual values, secret values. So it will be similar to this, but it will not have this export. Okay. So what does this export do? Basically, there is another option. This is optional info. You can run this as a script. Okay. In the terminal, to take line by line as a command and run that. So this is a command in bash saying export this key. So it will export this key to the environment variables of the environment, okay, that's currently running. So if you decide to go with that path, then you will be abiding by this rule. Which one? This rule, the environment variables rule. Okay, so these are general environment variables that's available. And how can you see them while the code is running? You can do something like this: import os and then os.environ. This will be a dictionary, I believe. Yes, containing all of the environments currently placed. So assuming that you decide to go with that other path of running this script, this bash script and running these commands one by one in the terminal, then you should see when you run this, when you print this, you should see normal environment variables that are always there when you run any Python script, and you should see as well the custom keys that you inserted here. Okay, so but we will not go through that with that path, and we'll instead, or I personally instead, just take the stuff here and put it in a .env file. And when I do that, I remove the export, because in the .env file you don't need the export prefix. So and I believe you can put anything on the side here. So this is taken as well in the normal .env file when it's read. So it will take this as a key, and then what is after the equal will be taken. Okay, that's what I understand. I'm not sure if this is correct though or not, because I think I faced this issue before. So you can put comments on the side like this here. In the actual env file, you have to put it, if you're going to put it on top of it or below it. Don't put it to the side. Okay, and another thing, this string is optional. So for example, when I say here true, I can also write it at like this, and it will be read as a string as well. Okay, so but we put it for clarity, because everything here, if I remember correctly, is initially read as a string. Okay, so if you just use the good old traditional method of from.env library import load.env, and then you load.env, you will see that, and then you try to call, for example, and then you try to call os.get env debug mode. This will return true string. Like even if you put this as a true without the double strings, okay, even if you do it like this, and you print this, it will still be decoded as a string. It will still appear as a string, because that's how it internalizes the file, how this file gets read. So this is something for you to so this will be a string as well. This one will be a string, and then you can do, if you are going to get this here, for example, you won't need that, but this is just for you to understand. And you get that as a variable, int val. This will actually not be an int val. This will be a string, and you will have to do something like this to convert it to an integer. Same thing with debug mode. It will return a string with true in it, and then I think if you put this and here a string with true, it will be a true value, but I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure. Is true or false? Yeah, no, it doesn't do that. So apologies for this. I thought it would apply the same logic, but apparently not. But you get the idea. Okay, so this is something for you to be aware of how to get environment variables or configurations into the environment. Okay, if you want a description of what the use of each configuration here is, then there are two approaches. First approach, good old Control-Shift-F, global searching here. So for example, in here I can Control-Shift-F, and I can see where it got mentioned. It got mentioned in all of these. For example, let me see here, main API. So if we're in debug mode right now, and this file is the main entry point, then we will run the UV current server, etc. So you can see the importance of each code. But not all of the configurations here can be Control-Shift-F'd. For example, if we see the OpenAI key and we Control-Shift-F that, you will see that it isn't written explicitly in any other file. Exclude obviously the GitHub action file. It's not written in other files. Okay, so this is a problem, because it will make it a little bit more difficult to deduce its usage. But here we can actually rely on the comments in the example. Okay, I tried to put comments stating how it gets used. Obviously, OpenAI is a clear example. And then you know from the name that we are using an LLM provider which relies on OpenAI model, so we use that key. So this makes sense. Okay, but other things that really don't make that much sense, I have comments, like for example WhatsApp keys here. I have comments for that. Okay, and etc. And there is a tricky note regarding the OpenAPI key specifically. I'll get back to this when I explain later files. So yeah, this is the part of configuration. The remainder of the code here is just the default values that we put. So if you remember here, there is a precedence on how we take each value. Like if we have debug mode in here and in the .env, we'll prioritize this one. So the last thing we'll prioritize is a default field value in the settings model, which is something like that. If we go back to the debug mode, I mean, you will see the default value. That means the following: if we do not have this variable called debug mode all capital letters. If you don't have that, passed in arguments over here, or exported via the export command from the example, or in a .env file, or in the remaining of the above like 5 settings. If you don't have all of that, then this will be set to as a default value over here, okay, which is false. Okay, so I believe, if I remember, in the live environment that we have in Heroku, we don't even specify that key, like that key in the environment over there over Heroku. So since it doesn't exist there, it will default to false. Okay, and so we won't be in debug mode in live, and that makes sense. Okay, so this is something same as logging level. Logging level here, I believe in live we don't have this mentioned, I think. So it defaults to info, which makes sense, not debugging. What else do I want to say? I think this is everything related to config. Field validator. This is when we want to get the key called origins specifically, which is this one. This function makes sure that we obtain it in a specific format, which is a list. Okay, so it basically says the following: if we have origins as a string, then convert it to a list. But if it's a list, then leave it as is. For example, if you go back to env.example here, you will see that origins is written as a string, and between each link and the other is a comma. You see, a comma, like this. Okay, so this is a string. So this function basically tells us the following: when this script runs and we check for origins, and we check it in any place like the terminal or the env file or etc., we do this validation. Okay, and if it's a string like the one that I just showed you, then you should split by this comma. Okay, otherwise you leave it as is. That is all. I think it's pretty obvious. This function is where we instantiate that settings class that has all the keys above, and we call that function everywhere basically. So this function returns an instance of the settings class, and we use that literally everywhere, literally at the start of each file, for example, or not the start of, yeah, when we initialize the database class or the Ansari agent itself, we pass it to the initials, so it takes the settings as initial. So we use it a lot. So just understanding this logic will help you out. So this was regarding the config part. And yes, regarding now, what do we have here? Regarding, so yeah, there is the config.py and env.example. Okay, I'll just take a small break and continue the rest of the files. 1 second. What I want to do, I want to presenters.